Hi there, Anna K. Morris with a coaching video for you today. But of course, I'm telling it as a story, as I do. So, the coaching is be flexible. I'm sure I've said this in a million of my videos. I feel like every video, this is all that I'm ever saying. But don't we have a plan? And don't we want it to go that way? And aren't you real committed that it goes that way? And don't you fight, like get in the ring and it's like a dog fight sometimes that you're just like, you just won't let it go. Have you guys ever seen a dog fight? Do you know what I'm talking about? Where you just won't let it go and it's actually like killing you. And if you were to just let go and be flexible and let yourself be in awe and in delight of the universe, with God, with angels, it would be so much better. So here's the story. Let me land this, right? And the impetus is this. And so Tara, if you're watching, this is for you. So I was supposed to do an interview this morning or this afternoon with one of my previous clients because I'm going to do a few little live testimonials for you guys so that you can hear from previous clients what it's like to work with me. As you can imagine, there's plenty of cursing and no bullshit. So you already know that from my coaching videos, but I thought it'd be fun for people to get a flavor of what it's like to work with me. Let me turn that off real quick. So she didn't show up, which is fine. But I had to rearrange some stuff to be available. And then here I am sitting here for 15 minutes. And it just didn't work, right? She's solo parenting. She has 3 kids. I knew that this was probably a stretch to do something at noon on Saturday. I just, being a parent myself, I kind of assumed that this would be when it would be nap time, but then that's also the only quiet time that you're getting. So I knew it was a stretch. So when she didn't show up, none of this surprised me. And I was like, absolutely, let's schedule for a time when you have your nanny or you have childcare or whatever. That would feel so much better. So it's totally great. And her response to me was thank you so much for being flexible. And that's the thing. That's actually the thing that I'm best at. And I think is my secret weapon is to be able to pivot. And I learned that at a very young age, which is why I care so much about iced coffee for the win, which is why I care so much about traveling. My dad's a Delta pilot. So, and I'm 43. So I was born in 79. So I grew up before iPhones, before the screen on at the airport that'll tell you who's getting on the standby list. I grew up going on vacation with my family, not knowing if we were going to have seats on the plane. That is how I grew up traveling. That is a fucking different ballgame. When I think about doing that now with our 2 kids, I'm so let me get this straight. My parents went to the airport, had called in and talked to somebody on the phone and put us on a standby list and then went like this, packed all our shit up and went to the airport and we're we'll see what happens, right? There was no Google. This is in 85. At 6 years old, I can't remember when we started traveling abroad. We must have been I think 8 was when, so that would have been 1987. My parents just took our asses to the airport and they were we'll see. Hopefully we'll get on. This flight looks like there are a lot of seats. I can remember specifically a time, and this is why that kind of flexibility was the greatest teacher in my life. That my mom was always cool with stuff. We always had plenty of snacks, a couple of games each. There were no phones. There were no watching movies. There was none of that. I had a little doll kit that was called Little Me's. Anybody that remembers Little Me's, please post in the comments and tell me how I can find one because I love them so much. If you snapped on the clothes and you made a storefront, which of course is my early love of retail makes a lot of sense now, right? And I would we also didn't sit together. So I'm 3 and 4 years old sitting by myself in first class because my parents always had to have the seat with my sister because she got airsick. So like I'm up there by myself, right? With strangers saying like, hi, what's your name? Are you traveling for business or pleasure? This is like what my parents taught me to say with strangers sitting in first class. And then they would get the champagne. Then they would, they would talk to the flight attendant and be like, but send the booze back to us. And that, so it was just the best training. And my parents were so cool about it. And I look back and I'm like, it's just wild. And it was my greatest teacher because it taught me how to pivot, keep being flexible, keep being available, keep looking for the magic. So here's the story. That's some of the story, but we go to Switzerland. I must have been 8. We go to Switzerland to visit some friends and we get to Paris and we did not know. This is again, like I guess we didn't read the newspaper. Like, I don't know what happened. I was only 8. We get to Paris and it's the World Cup. I don't know if that was in 87, but there's some shit going on that it's like the soccer match of the world. And the gate agents, like the redcoats, we call them, the gate agents were like, Coppola's, you're not getting out of here for 5 days. Like, it wasn't like, oh, maybe tomorrow, like go stay at a hotel and like, you'll get out tomorrow. They were like, you're not getting out of this airport, Charles de Gaulle, until Friday. This was like Monday. Oh, and it was spring break. So like, also like your kids are going to miss a week of school. And my parents were so great because my parents were like this about travel, to travel versus school, because this is before online learning and like all of that stuff. They were like, that's fine because our kids will learn more traveling than they will sitting in a classroom. And I 100% believe that. I can do math in my head until the cows come home because I learned how to do all the converting, everything. Like that was my job in our family. My dad was also head of a union. So like we all had jobs in our family. Like it was a very socialist way to grow up. And it was so good because like my sister was in charge for certain things. I was in charge for certain things. And I like know math really well. Because that was my job to do the tip and all of the like international conversions for currencies. Okay, so my dad looks at us and my mom looks at us and they're just like, okay, girls, like, where do you want to go? We've got 5 days. We can go anywhere in Europe. Where do you want to go? And I don't know who came up with it. It was probably my sister. She was like, I want to bike through the tulip fields in Amsterdam. So we do that. I think we hopped on a flight or a plane or a train, probably a train. And we go to Amsterdam. Didn't know that it wasn't tulip season yet. We were a little early for it. So there were like 2 measly like tulip fields. It was we stayed in this little town called Hoofddorp. I'll never forget. It was where my parents fell in love with this like dish pattern and ended up like having our dishes, like getting our dishes from there. Villeroy and Bach, I'll never forget. I think it's a Luxembourg pattern. Also, my love of tableware must have begun on that trip. And it just like the way that they taught us to not have changes or surprises in our plan be a problem, but rather like something to delight in, a place of wonder, a place of curiosity. I am in awe of them, and I'm so incredibly grateful for how they parented us to like have that kind of capacity to enjoy the ups and downs of like the not knowing, because like, let's face it, guys, that's life. Like I will be on airplanes now and like they'll be delayed or whatever, and I watch all these people get bothered around me, and I'm like, I mean, that's just a few more hours of like me doing something cool that like I didn't expect I was going to do. Like maybe I'll watch this movie, or maybe I'll start writing a book, or like whatever, but like it doesn't bother me. And then Derek, fast forward. So right after Derek and I got married, it was like, oh, I'm in my mid 30s. And I knew that like that was, when people have kids, and everyone around me was kind of doing it. And I was like, I just can't, like, I have to go travel around the world. I have to know what this feels like. And I knew I wanted to travel around the world, but I knew I didn't want to do it by myself. So I've been like waiting to meet the man of my dreams and go travel around the world with him. Like did not care so much about starting a family, did not care so much about my career at that time. I just closed that chapter in pharmaceutical sales and was like really looking for my next thing, but I had to do this like gap year. And in that, so eventually we did. It took a couple of years to get Derek on board with it. And we did, and we didn't plan it. So 10 days before we were set to start out on our trip, we still hadn't booked anything. And we were supposed to start in New Zealand. And I had a conversation with my dad, and he was like, have you looked at your Delta passes? Because I should also mention that I still travel for free, essentially. I pay like what's called a yield fare, so a percentage. But my dad was head of the labor union and negotiated that like dependents of airline pilots would fly free forever. So I pay a percentage, which sometimes it ends up not even being cheaper. But internationally it can be, and also I often will get into first class, especially if it's international. It can be a little tricky with Derek because he has a different kind of ranking than I do. So he doesn't have the seniority of being like a family member. But my dad was like, have you thought about taking a look at your passes and just seeing what might work? And I was like, Dad, it's not. I gave him all these reasons about why that wasn't a good idea. And he was like, just take a look. You haven't booked anything yet. I know you're going to New Zealand. That's an expensive trip. It could make a difference in your overall budget. And I go and take a look, and I kind of poke around with New Zealand. It didn't really work. And I was like, we're going to start in New Zealand, and then we're going to end up in South Africa. We're kind of chasing somewhere. I was like, but it could be reversed. It could actually work that way. So lo and behold, I took a look at flying to Johannesburg, which is a big hub for Delta. And I was like, well, this is interesting. We can fly Austin to Atlanta, Atlanta to Joburg for $200. This is fucking crazy. And we missed first class by one seat. So not only did we fly to Johannesburg, did we change our whole trip, but we did it 10 days before, and then we didn't plan any of our trip. We got to Johannesburg, we got to South Africa, and we're like, we have this like rough idea. We're in South Africa for about a month, and we're like, and then we're just gonna see what happens. I literally found an app, Momondo, where you could put in where you were, and then you could put in everywhere, and it would give you the cheapest ticket to like wherever in the world. And from South Africa, we ended up going to Jordan. I had no idea. I didn't know about Petra or Wadi Rum or the Bedouins or like any of that. It actually was on Derek's list because, of course, he was like a boy growing up in the 80s, so he loved Indiana Jones, and that's like Petra and Wadi Rum and all that. So our whole trip for 10 months, we did it on the fucking fly. We met people in Verona, Italy, where we were not even supposed to be. Derek surprised me with a night at the opera, which he does not love, but I do. And then we met these people that had a farm in like somewhere that we would have never gone to in Sweden. And they invited us as their guests to like come to their home and like stay for 2 days. And it turns out they like own the whole town, and they like have boats and a dairy farm. And I learned how to milk a cow and like all these things. And it was all because we let ourselves just go with the flow and have it be like full of wonder. And like, sure, sometimes it was a shit show. Sometimes it was really hard. Sometimes we didn't like choose right, whatever that means. Like we missed a train one time in the Netherlands because we were dicking around on our phones. We were literally sitting in front of the train, but the train was over here behind a post, and we were so involved in our fucking phones that we like sat there the whole time, and then the train just like went off, and I don't even know if we got home that night. Like, I'm not really sure what happened. I don't remember, but I just remember looking at each other being like, did we seriously just do that? And that's such a good metaphor because like sometimes the train really is right in front of you, but you're too busy like dicking around on your phone or being worried about something that you can't even control anyway. So I know this is a little bit long today, but like just relax and like be in wonder of your life, and like put the phone down and see where the day takes you, right? Like have some time with nothing scheduled, with blank space, with a snow day. If you've seen my videos about snow days, like just with nothing, like we have nothing this afternoon. that's perfect. I don't want anything. I don't know where it'll take us. I don't know what the kids will want to do. I don't know what we'll feel like doing, but that's the best. Allow yourself to just like be in wonder and delight and pivot and be flexible and like all of that, because it's just about like you being in the present moment. Yeah. Okay. I love you. I'll see you next time. Bye.